My name is Tim Malloy and I'm a rural general practitioner in Wellsford, in the rohi of Te Uriaho, in the iwi of Ngāti Whātua, which is and I live about an hour north of downtown Auckland, halfway between Auckland and Whangarei. I'm involved in general practice leadership, and I'm currently the president of the Royal New Zealand College of General Practitioners. I'm also chairman of the General Practice Leaders Forum, chairman of Waitemata PHO, and a director of my practice. I had the usual 12 hours notice that I was going to be speaking today, so you will bear with me if I'm a little ill-prepared and I don't have any technology. So I'll just talk off the top of my head as I wrote the speech at 8:15 this morning. So I'll just begin by thanking you for the opportunity to place before you in the next 5 minutes what I considered to be one of the most complex, multifactorial issues we confront in our complex system we call health. Since I entered general practice leadership 23 years ago and worked with Jim Ross on the tool which became the Rural Ranking Score, a tool designed to redistribute the then rural bonus as a means of fiscally supporting the most rural practices more effectively, we have continued to fail at the most fundamental issue of the maldistribution of the medical workforce, the consequences of which are effectively an equity issue, inequity of access, and inequity of healthcare to our vulnerable rural communities. This issue, however, is not unique to the rural medical workforce, for equally the same could be said for many of our more impoverished urban communities and for the maldistribution between our specialist workforce and our generalists. The World Health Organization's position is that for an effective, efficient health service, nations need to have 50% of their workforce in generalist primary care. In 1981, this was the case in New Zealand. Now we are 40% of the workforce. In absolute terms, to correct this inequity, we would need at least another 1,000 more GPs. Moreover, the average GP age in 2012 was 51. I'm not sure if it was the average or the peak, but it was 51, which speaks for itself. I'm over the average. There will only be 45 of them as compared to the present number of 165. If you take the cohort of 35-year-olds, when they get to 51, there will be 45 of them. So that's 15 years from now. Now that's not enough to sustain a rural primary care, a general practice workforce at all, let alone a rural primary care service. We are thus missing a generation of general practitioners that will continue to drive the rural maldistribution. Fortunately, there is some hope. For the first time in my career, we are facing the potential of an oversupply of medical graduates, both in this country and in the world. For many reasons, including the recession, the events in Europe, the extra medical graduates trained in the United Kingdom and Australia, net medical migration has dropped from 25% to 3% in the last year. This oversupply in our outputs from our own medical schools, which currently is at 80 more graduates per annum and rising to 200 graduates per annum, is also a challenge unless we develop the supply chain to our specialty of general practice quite dramatically. This situation creates an opportunity to address our maldistribution of this at the same time as our overall general practice supply. While we have relied on international medical graduates to support our workforce, currently 40% of the medical workforce as a whole, 42% of the general practice workforce, and nearly 60% of the rural general practice workforce, we know that this has not resolved our issue in the past. The challenge I therefore put to the floor is, how does the sector incentivise our potential trainees to choose a career that addresses the maldistribution? both through fiscal and non-fiscal means, or do we act through compulsion in an environment of oversupply when we know that incentives have failed in the past, both here in New Zealand and internationally? I put that challenge to you, the politicians, and I welcome your responses. Thank you.